Hello and welcome. Will Iran remain out in the cold facing continued international sanctions, or is its willingness to consider dialogue sincere and promising? Deadlines are nearing for Tehran to commit to serious talks on its nuclear ambitions. The alternative is another round of sanctions. But the timing of these potential talks comes as Iran struggles with internal dissent over recent elections, putting into question whether or not any response from Tehran is credible. Well, Tehran announced its readiness for dialogue with the international community, including the US, on the eve of an international meeting in Germany about Iran's nuclear situation. Iran has also said it will present a new package of proposals to ease concerns over its activities, although there's been no sign of its details yet. Last week, the International Atomic Energy Agency released a report saying that even though it could find no conclusive proof of a bomb-making agenda in Iran, it did find serious and credible suspicions. Meanwhile, a September the 15th deadline set by President Obama is looming for Iran to respond to a six-power offer of trade talks if it halts nuclear fuel production. The alternative is to face stronger sanctions if that could affect its gasoline supplies. On today's show, we ask, is Iran's latest offer a genuine move or simply a ploy to save face internationally and buy time to avoid further sanctions? Remember, you can join our conversation with your questions and comments. Log on to livestation.com/AJE, enter the chat room and take part. And we can also take your phone calls on the show as well. Joining me today is from London, Dr. Martin Navius, an analyst with the Centre for Defence Studies at King's College and an expert in the biological and chemical capabilities of the arms trade. Dr. Navius has also authored a number of books and articles on global weapons proliferation. And from Los Angeles, we have Sepahpour-Ulrich, an independent Iranian-American writer, radio commentator and activist who focuses her research on US foreign policy and the influence of lobbyists. I welcome you both to the show. And Dr. Navius, if I could start with you, sir, in London. Is Iran serious about these talks rather than just creating delays that could potentially fend off sanctions for a little while?
Well, many people here in Western Europe are pretty skeptical about Iranian offers at this stage. For some years now, Iran has been making offers, withdrawing offers, making statements, making pronouncements, promising all sorts of things. But what they have not done is stop their uranium enrichment program. What they have not done is abide by requests from the International Atomic Energy Agency to halt its enrichment program or abide by UN Security Council resolutions. As a result, many people here don't believe that the Iranian offer will amount to much. Basically, the view is that they are trying to prevent Western European, Russian, Chinese and American threats of sanctions. As these sanctions will be, in the words of Hillary Clinton, pretty crippling. Right. So the aim of the Iranian diplomats now is to prevent these sanctions and play for time while their nuclear program enters its final phase. Okay, well, let me bring in
Sepahpour-Ulrich, who's joining us from Los Angeles here, and ask you, if you believe that this updated nuclear package that's being presented has anything significant to offer. We've not heard anything, any details of it. Do you feel there's anything new and substantial that could move things along?
Riz, as much as I enjoy your hospitality, I must remind your viewers around the world that Iran's nuclear issue should not even be the topic of discussion here. Iran has never violated the NPT. And with all the nuclear armed prior states out there, it is clearly a political issue that Iran is even in front of the UN Security Council. And for it to be even, the issue to be even discussed in Germany, of all places, is even double irony. Germany provided Israel with Dolphin submarines, and they've been altered to carry nuclear weapons. Germany owes Iran money. It's been taken in front of the International Commerce Commission for not delivering Iran on its nuclear power plants. And for Iran to be in front of the UN Security Council in the first place is just a hypocrisy, it's a violation, it's a total disregard for international law. And here we are with all these powers who have helped create a nuclear bomb, or several of them, hundreds of them, for Israel, which is the most aggressive power in the Middle East, and hauling Iran in front of the UN Council. And here is this gentleman from London saying that Iran's got nothing new to offer, whereas for the past several years, Iran in good faith has been talking about offering, freezing its nuclear enrichment just to show its goodwill, and every time it's been made a mockery of, its whole right to nuclear enrichment under the Article 4 has been made politicized because simply they don't want Iran to progress.
Right.
It's just unheard of.
I'll get on to some of these details and get back to Dr. Navius in a second. Let's get a viewer call in here. We have Shaukat in the UK with something to add to this. Shaukat, what would you like to say?
Yeah, hello, good evening.
Good evening.
If the West suspicion is true, which I seriously doubt, now the West, especially America, has occupied its neighboring country, Afghanistan and Iraq, and the surrounding countries have nuclear weapons, including Israel, who have threatened Iran. What security guarantee can the West give to stop Iran enriching the uranium? Thank you.
Dr. Navius, you want to take that one?
Well, many people in the West are concerned about Iranian foreign policy. They are concerned that Iran is supporting various groups in the Middle East that threaten the Arab-Israeli peace process, as difficult as this process is. Many people are concerned that Iran is making statements about wiping Israel off the map, that it could create instability in Iran and Afghanistan. Many people in the West feel very uncomfortable and very concerned about the regime in Tehran. So when you have a regime such as this, especially after the problems in Tehran concerning its election just recently, when you have a regime such as this that seems intent upon acquiring nuclear weapons, and the general consensus both in Washington, London, Paris, Bonn and elsewhere is that Iran is intent upon acquiring nuclear weapons. When you put these two factors together, the nature of the regime and the technology, people are very concerned. Now, the West has offered Iran a number of things over the past few years, which I think are credible. They've offered, for example, the West Europeans have offered a freeze for freeze. They will not push any more sanctions if Iran freezes its uranium program. The Obama administration has indicated that it will enter into talks unconditionally. The Iranians are yet to respond to that properly. From a Western perspective, the situation is deteriorating. And unless Iran comes up with something credible, and as I said, many people doubt they will, we are heading towards more sanctions.
Okay, well, let's get a call in from Canada. Suleiman is on the line. Suleiman, what would you like to ask?
Yes, my question to Mr. Navius is why target Iran? What about Israel? They have 400 nuclear bombs. Where is the international law and United Nations resolution about that? Thank you very much.
Mr. Navius.
Well, I'm not representing any government here as to why the United States or Western Europe focuses on one or the other. I'm explaining to you why many people in the West are concerned about Iran. And I'm explaining to you that if Iran does not come up with something credible, we are heading towards sanctions. Now, these sanctions will be serious. The intent in Western Europe and Washington is to focus on a number of areas. Firstly, to focus on gasoline. Iran, while it's got one of the largest proven oil reserves in the world, imports up to 40% of its gasoline because it doesn't have a refinery capacity in which to produce such items. Secondly, there's going to be a focus on financial sanctions. These sanctions will include preventing Iran from getting the capital it requires to upgrade its economy and its oil industry. And finally, there's talk about focusing on the insurance sector, that is refusing to allow insurers or sanctioning any insurers that provide insurance to ships going to and from Iran. Okay. Now, this will be very serious indeed, and one hopes that Iran will take heed of these threats, okay, and will move accordingly.
Soraya Sepahpour-Ulrich, let me ask you, at this stage, with the current mood in Iran following that election and the sense of still a sense of unrest there, what is the best way to approach Iran right now? How is it going to respond best? Is it to a sort of a harder approach or a softer approach?
I think, well, first of all, I think that the world has got to realize that, or the West, since Mr. Navius has taken it upon himself to be the spokesperson for the West, he has got to understand, and I address myself to him, again, since he's the spokesperson for the West, that you have got to stop dividing the world between the West, and I assume the West is the P5+1, that you cannot have double standards and hypocrisy going on forever. Iran is within its rights to enrich uranium for fuel. Iran, report after report after report has come out by the IAEA that Iran is not diverting its nuclear fuel for weapons. And if the United States, forced by Israel, claims that Iran wants to build weapons, as Mr. Nevias has incorrectly claimed, because it wants to wipe Israel off of the map. And really, with Israel controlling 96%, or Zionists controlling 96% of the media, they could come out with a better line than this old one. This one is really getting too old. Iran, or Mr. Ahmadinejad, never said this. Okay, this is just a misinterpretation of what he said.
Oh, the one thing is, Soraya, on the issue of the IAEA, Dr. Al-Baradei did say that though there was no clear indication or no clear evidence, there was strong suspicion that Iran could be moving towards a weapons program.
No, Mr. Al-Baradei never said that. I urge you to read the report. The suspicion that is still hanging there is a laptop that was delivered by dissidents, and these dissidents are the terrorist group that came out, and they've even Germany, where the meeting is being held, had supported Iran. The origin of this laptop is very suspicious. This is the only thing that is that stands between the IAEA giving Iran a clean bill of health and that what is standing, from what's been already verified.
Now, listen. Just before let me just before we take a break, let's hear what Bart in New Zealand had to add to this. I think it was on the similar subject. Bart, go ahead, please.
Yes, this question's already been asked, and it wasn't touched. And I think that this is a perfect example of what's going on in the Middle East. Why are you not discussing Israel's nuclear bomb arsenal? Thank you.
Okay, we did touch on that a little bit there. But let me get a break in here while we have a chance. As we pause, let me remind you that we can join the conversation with your questions and comments by logging on to livestation.com and entering the chat room. The debate's taking place there right now. We'll be right back.